Alright, this is Mr. Ellis. We're going to try this one more time. I had some difficulty with my equipment. I'm going to do it one more time. I'm attempting to record queries for you guys. And here we have the database. I'm just going to close this one out. No, I don't want to save it. Okay. Here we have the tables that we're going to use for our queries. As I demonstrated in class, queries work on the fields and pull records for you from your tables that meet the criteria that you set in the query. First thing to do is click the Create button. I'm going to create these queries in the Design view. And for the first one, I'm simply going to do filtering. So I'm going to click Add for my customer table only. That selection of tables is automatic, but if you want to add tables to your query, you can click on Show Tables and it will show the tables, and you can select tables for your query. Okay. The field selection is a double click. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the customer ID, company name, I want to skip all the location, contact name, phone, and region. And what I'll do is I'll view that to make sure that I got the columns that I want. Yes, and you see we have 20 records, we have 20 customers. Some of them from Illinois, some of them from Kansas, some of them from Missouri, and some from Nebraska. That's a good start. Let's go back to our design view. Now, if I'm looking for a specific uh, string of characters in a field, I will place those characters in the column that the field is, customer ID, for in the criteria. That was just in the criteria row. Okay. I will place the string in the criteria row under the heading that I'm looking for. For example, if I wanted to see all of my customers in the northern region, I would type northern in the region field, hit enter. Notice that it encompasses that in quotes. Then I would run my query, and I see that I received all the records that are in the northern, all the companies that are in the northern region. Okay. Along those same lines, suppose I'm looking for um, a string that I can't remember in totality, such as the companies in the criteria row. Suppose I want a company that starts with the letter J, and that's all I know is that it starts with J, and I really don't know which region it's in, and I really don't know the contact name. So I'm just gonna put J in. Now, as I search for a string, in most query languages, the asterisk is a wildcard. So I'll use an asterisk. And when I hit enter, it will add the keyword like. And of course, it adds quotes around the string. Okay. Like is a keyword that we'll use a lot in this video. What it does is say, hey, I want to look at any string that's like this. Begins with a J, and I don't care how many characters behind it. I want everything that begins with a J. So I'm going to view in these queries. These are filter queries. When I do action queries, run has a different meaning than view. But while we're doing filter queries, run and view are practically the same thing. So when I click on view, I get to see that I have the Jackson Brown Real Estate Company. Okay. And I have one in the Midwest, the Western, Northern, and two in the Eastern. Okay. One more query like that. I want to say that perhaps I'm looking for companies that start with J and E. I know I have some companies out there that start with an E. I've just seen that I have some companies out there that start with a J. So I'm going to type in the keyword like, and in quotes, I'm going to put open square bracket. This says I want a list of characters. I'm going to put J and I'll put B. Close square bracket. And now, since I know that these guys begin with J or B, I don't know how many characters follow, so I'm going to use the wildcard and close my quote. Hit enter. And now when I run this, I get the Brown Shoe Company and the Jackson Brown Real Estate Company. That in itself is not fantastic, but in combination with the wildcard, when you don't remember names, you're able to pull out certain characters and use them for criteria in your query. Okay. Speaking of which, suppose I'm going to contact name. And suppose the contact name I've got in there, I know the guy's name is Jeff. I don't know which company he works for. I talked to Jeff just the other day, and he was telling me something. I need to call him back. So I'm looking for Jeff as a contact name in one of my customers' stores. So I'm going to put the wildcard. Says anything before it, his name Jeff, and anything after it, because we didn't segregate the first and last name with our contact names. I have first name, I actually will be Mr. Jeff something. I don't remember his last name honestly. So I'm going to hit enter, and I get my like keyword. Everything is enclosed in quotes. As I run this query, I know there's only one store, an Intrek computer repair store in the Midwest region. His name is Mr. Jeff Jones. Excellent. Go back to design view. Okay. Now we want to use a combo multiple filtered criteria. If I'm in criteria and I say I want a company that begins with a J, and the word and indicates both you and I, and has that is in the western region. Okay. So all companies whose company name begins with a J and are in the western region will be found. I run the query. I find that there's only one in the western region, and it is Jackson Brown's Real Estate in the western region. Go back. Now, and is inclusive or is exclusive, either or. Okay. So when I say begins with a J or is in the western region, I don't want to do that. Let's do something more dynamic. I say the company ID begins with an N or the contact name has a Jones in it. Now, what it'll do is it'll go out there and look for our Nebraska stores, and if any state has a contact person whose name begins or that has Jones in his name, we will find him. So let us go through and click. And you see we have some Missouri. All of the Nebraska show up. But we have some Missouris with Joneses. There's a lot of Joneses in Missouri. Go back to the design view. If I want to have inclusion on the same line, uh, let's add a table here. I want to add the orders table to my query. You can see one customer to many orders. From my orders table, I'd like to pull the order ID, the order date, the quantity, and the price. Okay. I'm going to leave sale value off. I'll create a calculated field for sales value. I'm going to check my query and make sure I got all the fields that I asked for, and I did. Okay. In this query, I would like to see if any of my products in the criteria field, I want all the products whose price is greater than $20 and less than $60. Now, that inclusion in being in one field, all it's going to do is look at that price, and all the fields that are in that range, all of the prices that are in that range, they'll pull those records. Quite a few. We get 40, anything over $60? No. Okay. I think the highest is $48. And the lowest is everything is greater than 20 and less than 68. So that query worked. Go back to design view. I'd also like to show you the calculated fields. Now let's do one more string thing. Okay. I want to see a query that allows the user to enter search criteria. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to say, let's go to region, and in the region criteria, I want to use a square bracket. Okay. And it's kind of hard for you guys to see. I'm going to show you a trick here. Right click in that criteria field and click zoom. And now what I type here will be transferred into the criteria field for a region. And it's easier to see. Square bracket. Which region do you want? Question mark. Okay. Click OK. I'm going to expand this so we can see the full Monte. Alright, and I'm going to run this, and what it's going to do is prompt the user, me, for the region. The first region I want to see is Western. That's pretty good. I get all of my Western. I can examine stores in the like area or customers in the like area. And let's run it again. Northern. Okay. And I get that. Now, without closing this out or going back to the design view, I can simply refresh. Using the refresh button here, I would click the refresh and it'll run the query again. And as it runs it again, I want to now say Midwest. And I get all my Midwest regions. That way, you can write one query that works in many situations instead of writing many queries for one field. Go back to the design view. Now, what I'd like to do is I want to say if I'm looking for, what did we do? We did in the contact name there was a guy Jeff. Okay. Suppose I want to do a prompt for the first character of the company name, like I did with Jones. I mean, with the Jackson Brown. I would like to type in here like using my square bracket J. Okay, and this is going to be a prompt. So I'm going to concatenate. That's a fancy word, means string them together. The asterisk in this string. Okay, so what I've done is I've asked to look at the first character, and then when I add that, it's like the J asterisk in the first query that we ran. Hit enter, and hopefully this will run. And it asks which character parameter value. I'm going to enter J and see what happens. And I get Jackson Brown. Unfortunately, I didn't put quotes around it. You need to put quotes around it. So let me go back. It worked, but it prompted me for a character. And so what I'm going to do is go like enter a char, and then I'm going to concatenate with an ampersand and quote asterisk quote. And now the prompt will ask me for a character, and it'll work the way I expected it to. So as I run that query, it asks enter a character, and I'll say E first, and it pulls up all my intrec, and then I'll refresh. I'll say I want to see all the ones that begin with J, and it shows my Jackson Brown. Okay, that's pretty much it. I like those queries on just a straight line query to be a information video for you to do that your next assignment.